Welcome to the Real Freedom Podcast, where we inspire you to pursue your passion to gain time and financial freedom through opportunities in real estate. I'm your host, Mike Swenson. Let's get some real freedom together. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Real Freedom Stories. And today is different than a lot of our episodes. We've got a story of personal inspiration and triumph, as well as investing in real estate and building wealth through real estate. So I'm so excited and so honored to share with you. We've got Myles Berrio, and a little bit of a backstory. Obviously, he's going to tell it way better than I can, but a little bit of his backstory is he's in real estate. So he actually has 4 businesses. He's got the wholesaling business. He's got Risen Real Estate Investment Company. He's got his coaching business. He does fix and flips, and then also does properties that he owns, buy and hold. So kind of 4 aspects there in real estate. Lives in Greenville area, South Carolina. But then tragedy struck about a year and a half ago. And he was actually hit by a drunk driver and lost one of his legs. And so he's been a story of inspiration, fighting, battling through, and still continuing to do what he does in real estate. And so, like I said, you'll tell the story much better than me, but welcome, Myles. We're super excited and super thrilled to have you on the show.
No, man, I really appreciate it. It's always kind of interesting to kind of hear an overview of your life a little bit. It's like, man, you know, it's crazy. Life, definitely an adventure for sure. So,
yeah. So why don't you, just give us a little bit of the background, maybe before you got into real estate, how that worked, how you transitioned to real estate, and then obviously what's happened in your life these last couple of years.
Yeah. I mean, anything that I do, I just like go all in. So I think, especially with social media, I love to document my journey. I think people think I've been in real estate for a long time and I'm some guru expert, and I'm really not, dude. I've honestly been doing real estate for less than 24 months full time. I learned about investing in real estate back in January of 22. That was actually the month and the first time I'd ever heard about wholesaling real estate. But before then, I was actually a full-time wedding and commercial photographer. So, and I know some people are like, oh, you're wedding photographer, you shoot weddings. No, again, anything I do, I go all in. So I've traveled all around the world. My wife, our honeymoon was in Belize because I had to shoot a wedding in Belize, but I've been all, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, Mexico, Dominican, all kinds of places. And some people know me. I was a photographer on Netflix, Love is Blind, shot for WeWork, Uber Eats. So anyway, had a really awesome photography career. But once we moved to Greenville, kind of like anybody and everybody, COVID definitely had an interesting impact. Pretty much my entire photography business just shut off and shut down pretty much overnight because you couldn't, do any work in venues. It's not like you're meeting up with people to do photography and things like that. So, and the interesting thing too is, like, as a photographer, people, weddings, they book you usually like a year in advance, 7, 8, 9 months in advance. So not only did my income stop, that week, in a couple of weeks, but people were so nervous, they rescheduled their weddings to the next year. So even the rest of the calendar was just like disappeared. So anyway, I was really kind of at a place like, man, what am I going to do? Just got married, just had a baby. It was just kind of, a crazy situation. And just by the grace of God, man, just craziness. I was just watching a random YouTube channel, and they don't even talk about real estate investing. It's actually called The Breakfast Club. And it's usually something I watch just because it's funny and entertaining. But they interviewed this guy that was talking about how he was like investing in real estate and doing this thing called wholesaling, and didn't have to buy a house, and, didn't have to use his credit, or didn't have to, use income statements, and, go to a bank and just, you could invest in all. I'm like, what is this? Like, this is crazy. And I'm like, if this guy can do this, I know I can do this. No way. So, of course, I heard about it January of 2020, and I studied wholesaling like crazy all of January. I mean, all the guys, Pace Morby, John, Max Maxwell, all the guys out there that you could think of, TTP, Brett Daniels, Steve Trent, everybody, anyone you could think of. I just watched all the videos, ton of podcasts, bigger pockets, everything. And February is when I actually hit the ground running. So that's kind of my journey. Is I heard about wholesaling January 2020. And then February is when I hit the ground running. And then 3 months it took me to get my first deal. It was actually 2 deals. And I actually have a photo. I wish I could share my screen. I don't know if there's a way you can see, but actually, I still have the photo today. It's actually on my website, actually, so anyone can see that. 2 checks for the same amount, $11,000 each. So it was over $20,000, dude. That was just insane to have that experience. I mean, especially in the middle of COVID and just coming from, photography background, it was wild. So after that, just dude, never looked back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, okay, so we'll talk about the wholesaling and we'll get into the real estate, but let's talk about, the accident that you had and how that changed your
Yeah.
life and how that
Yeah.
impacted your career here. So why don't you kind of
Yeah.
share with the
Yeah.
folks, what happened there?
Yeah. And it actually started while I was like doing real estate. So, I mean, it really just kind of points to the fact that, man, you could be crushing it at whatever in your life, but none of us are exempt from just things of life, things that just happen. Things just do happen. And you really have to have the mindset to really push through those things. But basically, like I said, heard about wholesaling in January and then studied all of January, February, and then for the next 3 months, did my first two deals. And then for the next six
Mhm.
months, and that's kind of how I got on some other shows. I did $100,000 in wholesaling, like on the dot. Actually, the last deal was like a $35,000 deal that literally hit the 100,000. And what's crazy, the reason I say that is not to be boastful, but it just kind of shows again, life can be amazing and things are great because the very next month is when I was just randomly coming home from the gym. Did nothing, just I was driving home from the gym and there's just a drunk lady. She was intoxicated and going like 91 miles per hour. And she just hit me head on, just straight on. My car just crushed and everything. I mean, every bone. I was at Prisma here in Greenville, a great hospital, amazing hospital. I mean, in all of the doctors are like, I have no idea how you survived. I mean, there's the statistics. I mean, there's no way. Like, I should have just not. There's no way, And it was just a crazy time, man. I don't really remember the impact. I just remember me saying, I can't breathe, and kind of going in and out, and blood coming out of my mouth. And then there's just I do remember seeing blue lights a little bit. I think that's when the cops are there. And then I just remember waking up and seeing my family. I was like in the hospital. I couldn't really fully understand. I just knew, I guess, I'm taken care of right now. I guess there's people when I'm in the hospital, so that's good. But everything was very time sensitive. So, imagine you're like driving, having a normal day, and then a car hits you, and then you're like waking up out of some crazy accident, and then like the first thing you wake up to is them asking like, hey, we need to amputate your leg. So there was a lot going on, but it was very time sensitive, so we had to just get going. So I'm like, I don't think I could talk at the moment. I remember I had a feeding tube and every limb was wrapped up, all of my limbs, my both arms, both legs. And I just remember, I think, shaking my head and just do whatever. And then I just remember going back to sleep and waking back up, and I just remember being in a dark room and hearing the beep beep, kind of like the movies. You're like in a hospital waking up, and every limb, dude. I mean, it's like a mummy, like literally every limb, both of my arms wrapped up. Everyone talks about how I lost my leg, but what's crazy is that's not even the biggest part of my injury. So you are probably seeing, most people don't see it all the time on social media, but my arm, as you can see, looks like a burn victim. So I can't even I will never be able to use this arm again. So I actually have many more injuries than my leg being amputated. So my left arm is totally just done. It hurts all the time. And then my right leg, which is supposed to be my good leg, right, that I still have, actually hurts more than any part of my other body because the ankle has foot drop. So I wear a brace to keep my foot from dropping. But it's just intense, super pain all the time because I have to walk, or I have to get around and walk on it. So pretty much like this arm is like, my one arm is like the good arm, but pretty much like 75% of my body is just like constantly in pain. And obviously, my leg got amputated and all these other injuries, and that's just for life, man. That's the rest of your life, So it definitely impacted, my life for sure. I mean, just you can only imagine, how your life would change. But I think, I could sit here and say it, it maybe changed it for the negative, but I don't know. It really didn't. For me, that's not how my mind works. And I'm a true believer that your outside world is really dependent on the inside, right? It's just like a tree. It's like what you put under the ground is what produces above the ground. An apple tree is not an apple tree because of what's above the ground. You planted apple seeds, right? And that's not motivation. That's just reality. So the reality is the way my life looks today, that was already in my head. So I spent a lot of time working on mindset when I was in college, personal development, John C. Maxwell, Darren Hardy, Les Brown, Tony Robbins, everyone, Dale Carnegie, all the guys you could think of, tons of videos, and audios, Bob Proctor, all these guys. And I think it really served me well to push through that. But anyway, that's what happened. And every day I wake up, it's definitely a battle. I mean, I wake up with like limbs missing and I got to put things together and I'm in pain, so no day is definitely easy, but every day's worth it.
So kind of the journey then after the accident, how long were you in the hospital? And then how long was kind of the recovery time to where you got quote unquote, you're back to normal in the sense of
Yeah.
as normal will be for you.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So I was basically it was a period of 6 months.
Okay.
A period of 6 months. The accident happened October 18th. And then for the next 6 months is when I had to learn how to walk again. I had to learn how to talk again, how to eat again. Literally, I remember the forks. I couldn't even hold a fork or a spoon. They had to custom design like these squishy to kind of give enough surface area for me to, because I couldn't even close my hand because I had screws in my wrist. And I mean, whatever. I mean, we're all adults here. I mean, literally, it's just the reality of life. I mean, my wife had to wipe my behind, dude. I couldn't even, when I go to the bathroom, I had to poop in a bucket and my wife had to like wipe me. And, I couldn't really shower. I had to use like a bucket and squeeze a washcloth for weeks. And dude, it's crazy stuff. So the gym really, really, if anyone follows me, knows me, like, man, your physical fitness and physique, there's so much more than just getting in shape and being like ripped and all, dude. There is so much mindset to that. I mean, I get up and go to the gym early in the morning. And if you can imagine, what do you think the rest of your day is going to look like if the very first thing you do when you open your eyes is do something you really don't want to do? Get your butt up, go to the gym, crush your body, go work out. Dude, I mean, you're going to crush the day, right? So going to the gym was a really big part of my recovery. But anyway, yeah, it was about 6 months before I could really like even think about even getting in a car and trying to drive or do anything. But I was still trying to do work like within the third month, and everyone's like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you need to like, everyone's like, rest, like relax. I'm like, no, like, dude, I want to go do stuff, man. So, I was kind of pushing it, but I think that's kind of what helped my healing process a little bit better as well as, I kind of didn't look at myself or look at this accident as like as a prison, it's kind of like a motivating factor for me to just keep moving and keep pushing and, kind of got out of there. So.
I love what you said in terms of mindset, getting that right, getting your body right, because you have a extremely positive outlook on life. Your stuff on social media is extremely motivating, and somebody can't help but smile after looking at one of your posts or watching one of your videos. Like, you just have a great charisma as well. So talk about the business now. How obviously being in the hospital, you're recovering, you had to put a pause on that. But then you got it back up and going. And then let's kind of dig into each of those pieces in terms of, the buy and hold, how you're, kind of finding properties, deciding what to invest in, what you're going to fix and flip. And then maybe kind of the coaching business and that sort of stuff too. So talk about how that's grown over the last year and a half.
Yeah, absolutely. So my first year was completely wholesaling. And I'll go ahead and just touch on the fact that I do not care what you do in real estate in terms of investing. This is just my opinion. I truly believe that every investor in real estate should have some aspect of wholesaling a part of their business. And it's not because I'm a quote unquote wholesaler, because I'm not. I own property, I fix and flip. There's much more than I do in wholesaling. But here's what I learned when that became my entryway into the industry. Wholesaling is the art of finding the deal. I started realizing that I had a system where I could see a lead and I could choose, you know what, I want to hold on to that. Maybe I want to fix that, raise money to buy that and flip that. Or, you know what, let me just assign this to another investor. Whereas I found a lot of my investor friends who maybe were just flippers, they were at the mercy of maybe finding deals on market or from a real estate agent or another wholesaler having to pay a marked up fee and, and I just realized, man, I could really control my flow because the lead's coming to me. I'm talking direct to the seller. So I do think it's important for anybody listening to this. It doesn't matter, even if you're in commercial, even if you're doing, it doesn't like, dude, there are deals right now. My first deal that I was looking at as an apartment complex, a 7-unit apartment complex deal came from my wholesaling business, right? And the fact that I got to work directly with the owner, there's so much value in that. But anyway, the second thing that I did realize though, is that you need to automate your wholesale business. So when I first started, I was wearing all the hats. Now it's funny because the accident that happened, it kind of forced me into this, but I was already on my journey, on my way doing this, but I had to, when I got out of the accident and just because I pushed through and I guess, and just became very inspiring to a lot of people, I ended up being put in certain rooms that definitely I'm super grateful for and blessed, but I was able to learn kind of, a little bit quicker on how to automate this. So I learned how to basically grow a business around wholesaling instead of you just doing it all yourself. So that's where I started hiring VAs. I started putting together the concept of an acquisitions manager and disposition, all these different things that now allowed me to focus on other parts of the business. So that was step number 2, is getting that automated. And that really helped because then I could focus on other things. But just kind of specific to my situation, but it is kind of true. I really focus on, when I do a wholesale deal, I really try and build relationships with the people that I wholesale with, like the seller and even the buyers. A lot of times wholesalers are always looking for that next deal, they wholesale and move on to something else, but you don't realize that you're always going like horizontally. But if you really build relationships with people, you can really start going linear to where that one deal can start to stretch and grow instead of you having to go to the next and go to the next and go to the next. And what I mean by that is, before I had my accident, one of my biggest deals, I still remember her today, Sheila Rogers, because I had done like a $7,000 wholesale deal, $18,000, $5,000, $6,000. That was a $35,000 wholesale deal before I had my accident. Literally the month after I was able to get back into doing real estate, so 6 months of recovery, she reached out to me. Dude, that was a free, I did not even market it. She reached out to me because we had such a great transaction when I wholesaled, which I also know the buyer. The guy, actually, his name is Arn Sildelis of Arn's. Listen to this. He's a great multifamily investor in Greenville, South Carolina. He's the guy who bought that deal. But anyway, because I had such a great transaction with that seller, she reached back out to me and she said, you know what, Myles, I'm looking to sell my personal home. And I'm like, I'm listening, and she's like, but it's a big home. And I'm like, I'm listening. Long story short, dude, and if anyone knows in South Carolina, I mean, it's not like Atlanta, Georgia, or Phoenix where houses are like, $350,000, $400,000 plus everywhere. That's not necessarily the median, sort of price range out here. This house, the ARV was definitely close to like 550,000, definitely over $500,000. And long story short, I wholesaled that deal and made a $40,000 deal. So as I got back out, so I'm just kind of seeing the timeline, as I got out of my injury or got back up from recovery after 6 months, I worked on building this automated business, and I had done that deal because I had built that relationship with that seller prior. So now I have 2 strong things that are kind of pushing me through. And really what started happening is I started saying, okay, I also know that I can't wholesale forever. Even though this is automated, I need to start taking down deals. Because what I learned, Mike, and what I started realizing, because I remember me doing 30,000, 20,000, 15,000, like, dude, this is amazing. Why would you ever flip a home? I don't understand. Dude, pat on the shoulder for you. That's great. You made 30, 40K on a flip. Dude, I did that just wholesaling the thing.
Right.
But then I realized I talked to a buddy of mine and he said, Myles, that might be true, but here's the thing. You might make $20,000 or $15,000 or even $30,000 on a wholesale, but the person who can add enough value because they raised the money or they, whatever way they funded the deal, they bought it, they renovated it, they added value, and then they sold it, they make 70 or 80 or 100,000. So you're leaving on the table, being able to maximize profits and opportunities because you can't do other strategies. So I said, dang, I do need to figure out how to start buying deals. So that's how I started figuring out, that's where I started going down the route of raising private money. Now that ties into what I said originally about automating your wholesale, because if you're the one running around doing all the things in the wholesale business, it's hard for you to focus on raising private money because you're wearing all the hats. As soon as you stop marketing, your lead flow is dying. So because I have lead flow coming in constantly, I'm only just focusing on hot leads that are ready to go and making just maybe higher level decisions on what we're doing. But I could start having lunches with investors around the year. I could start, going to different meetups and doing different. I'm not necessarily, my whole day is focused on running around, going to appointments and running around and just talking to sellers all day long. There's a team in place. So it allowed me to start focusing on private money. And that's what allowed me to buy my first deal is I had my first private money experience. I looked into hard money. I know a lot of guys are using hard money, but man, maybe I'm spoiled, but man, my first deal bought was private money, fully funded, purchase and rehab, no points, literally just wired at closing. And then the funds, $40,000 wired to my account, renovating the property. And dude, it is so hard for me to go do bank loans or hard money, and I know there's times where, it makes sense, but private money is really, really awesome. When you can build these relationships with people and give people great returns on their money. Right. So anyway, you might have another question. So I can go on and on and on and on about stuff, but anyway, that's how I ended up getting into, buying deals to flip. And then of course there's the buy and hold side. That was really important too.
Well, and there's as you were talking about having the different options, I was thinking about, growing up, they had those choose your own adventure books, where it was like, hey, what do you
Yeah.
want to do here? And I think
Yep.
that's the thing that, being on the real estate sales side, so many agents only think about the transaction,
Yes.
and, my belief is when you find a property, you should look at, what's the potential here. And for a lot of these investment properties, you can fix and flip, you can buy and hold, you can wholesale, but you're in control of what happens with this property. And
Yeah.
because you're looking at multiple levels, now it's not just the burnout from wholesaling, and once I get this deal, I got to go get the next deal,
Right.
because you are building some long-term wealth and some income.
Yes.
Just like, as a realtor, it's, hey, as soon as I have that sale and I get that commission check, now I got to go find the next one.
Yep.
And so
Oh
the
yeah.
only way you grow is through leverage. But it's
Yeah.
just a sales business. I could be slinging copiers, or I could be slinging houses, and
That's
people
true.
don't think about the long-term impact. But being
Right.
able to live in those different buckets, you're able to not burn out, not just be chasing the next deal, and have an opportunity to build some real long-term wealth.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that's what transitioned me to holding properties. So that's what I started figuring out. Okay, you got to know who you are and where you are in your life. Now,
Mhm.
I don't have a W-2, or I can go to a bank and get a loan and maybe do the Burr method and refinance. I just knew banks weren't going to be my way. I need to figure out how I can creatively work with a seller and buy the house. So that's where I started exploring creative financing. So buying properties subject to, taking over mortgage payments, buying houses owner finance. My first rental property in Easley, South Carolina, I bought owner finance. ARV is like 150, totally renovated. The house right in front of it actually just got renovated and flipped, so about 150. Bought the property, $85,000, $4,000 down at
Mhm.
1.5% for 15 years, no balloon. I mean, just where you, I mean, there's no way you're going to go to a bank and get terms like that. You can't argue. You're not going to negotiate with the bank. But here's the
Yeah.
thing: the seller had motivation. The seller lived out of state, and just to kind of maybe talk a little bit about what you said earlier is like, what kind of properties do I go after? One of the properties I love are tired landlords. There's so many
Mhm.
upsides to that, because a lot of times the properties are in okay condition because there's tenants in there, right? But there's still enough value because maybe it's mom and pop, and they just haven't renovated it fully, so there's
Mhm.
still some upside. You can add some forced appreciation, but also there's motivation because they're tired. There's some issue. Maybe they want to get out of the rental business. Maybe they want to retire. Maybe they have problems with the tenants, and that's what this situation was. The guy lived out of state,
Mhm.
and he lived in Oregon, and the tenant was not paying rent. So anyway, I gave the guy a call. He wanted to sell it for 85,000, and I knew that wouldn't work for cash. Based on what you'd have to put into it, maybe 20, 30,000, and then you could, I mean, you'd have like a profit margin of maybe 20K, and you just don't want to play around with something like that for what you would have to put into it. And I just said, you know what? Let me ask you this, because you bought this property and you were supposed to be making money, and you're losing money on this deal. Let's figure
Mhm.
out how I can put money into your pocket. And I walked through the situation. How much was your tenant supposed to be paying you? And it was like, I don't know, it was like $700 a month or something like that. And I said, okay, well, how long have they not been paying you? And basically it totaled, it was like 35, 3,600, something around there. And I just rounded up to 4,000. And I said, look, what if I just gave you all the money the tenant hasn't been paying you upfront at closing? Now you're made whole. All the
Mhm.
money, everything you've been worried about for the past, dude, I'll just give you all that money up front. Dude, they're like, oh, heck yeah, all day, right? Now, of course,
Mhm.
they probably could have asked for $15,000 down, $20,000 down, but they're not, because you're focusing on solving their problem. So that's what they're
Mhm.
focusing on, is their problem being solved. So he took the 4,000, right? And the $85,000 purchase price, dude, first of all, that was below market value. I mean, it was a little bit higher than what someone would pay cash, but it's
Mhm.
okay because I'm going to hold on to it long term anyway. And I only put $4,000 into it. And then the interest rate, I wanted 30 years, but he said, I only want to do 15 years. And that's how we got to 1.5. So I said, at least can work with me on the interest rate. So I got
Mhm.
1.5%, dude, every payment this tenant. So I put a tenant in there. She pays $950 a month.
Mhm.
And I pay him about $500 a month. Dude, I mean, absolutely insane. Every payment this tenant is paying down so much of that principal. So now this
Mhm.
property is appreciating every single time this tenant is paying. And I didn't pay a dime. Even that
Mhm.
$4,000 I raised private money for. Did I have the 4,000? Of course, I got to just pay the 4,000. But I'm a big believer of practicing what you preach, and I want to learn raising private money and getting into deals without spending any of my own money, right? So I actually worked with a friend of mine who wanted to be a private money lender, but she didn't necessarily have 30, 40, $50,000 to work with. So I said, hey, look, let's just start with $5,000 because she did have that. And I said, we can start small and let's work through you having the whole experience from A to Z of being a private money lender. Now you'll be a private money lender, you know, that experience. And that's what, dude, at closing, I got a check at closing. That was so crazy for me. I'm like, this is wild. Literally, I got paid at closing, right, to buy this house. And I just put that in the bank, obviously. But so now I pay that private money lender. My friend of mine, I think it's like $16.22 a month. And then I owe the guy $500 a month and I own this rental property. I mean, crazy. Never went to a bank, never cared about my credit, never cared about tax, you know, statements, income statement, or whatever. And it's just, dude, people don't know, like, this is how you can build wealth. So my goal is to build not an enormous rental portfolio, because I noticed that a lot of people that I look up to that have these big rental portfolios, a lot of times they'll sell them all and get into commercial, or, you know, multifamily or apartments. So I said, let me just go straight to that then. I don't want to spend 20 years buying a bunch of apartments and then go to that. So I am going to buy, you know, single family properties because they do appreciate well, and they're easier to liquidate. It's a little bit easier to liquidate, you know, a 3-bed, 2-bath, you know, if you need to sell it or whatever, get the cat, then like 150 unit apartment complex, obviously. Right. So there is a lot of value in single family homes and just the value of helping families. I mean, people that need to rent or people that, you know, owner financing, people that can't go to a bank, et cetera. But there's a lot of value in apartments. And that's a lot of where my focus is right now, is raising money. I get too many deals that I don't have money for, that I don't have enough money for, in apartment complexes, multifamily. So
kind of going back to the creative piece here, because so many people are focused on, you know, list price, you know, what's the offer price, that sort of thing. And you took it, you kind of went around the side and figured, okay, if I have a purchase price that's maybe a little bit higher than I want, but I've got these sweet terms, you're paying way less than what you'd have to pay versus if you had an interest rate of 3 or 4%. So if you go back and this is where I'm a finance major. I'd love to put together the spreadsheet of at this purchase price and this interest rate, how much are you paying at the end versus a normal loan? What would that look like? And how much did you save having a little bit higher purchase price, but the lower interest rate? But then I think the other thing that people don't realize is you're helping to solve problems. And you mentioned that it's finding a win-win for both parties. And sometimes wholesaling can get a bad rep because people think you're trying to swindle somebody or, you know, hide something from them. And hey, I'm making this $35,000 check and you know, I'm running to the bank and they don't really know what they had and that sort of thing. But here, you're really helping to solve a problem. I want to help this person. This person needs help. And you solve the problem. They got the money that they wanted. They got rid of the hassle of the tenant. You took that over and they're going to get the money that they want for the next 15 years. And if you're happy and if they're happy, then great.
Yeah. Everybody wins. Win-win.
Let's talk about the raising private money, because I know there's a lot of people that would be interested in how do I do that, Myles? I have more deals than I can fund. So how do I go through that process of raising private money?
Yeah. So honestly, I'll be super practical. I think there's 3 steps in this that can really help anybody. Just take my word for it, guys. Just understand that this is how I did it. It's just my opinion. But look, number one, it baffles me when people just are like, especially in today's time, I'm like, oh, you have an Instagram or a Facebook? And they're like, nah, I'm not on any of that stuff. Dude, what? And you're like in an industry, like, are you kidding me? I get that it might be something that's like, oh, you know, I don't want to be sucked in, but just use it. Don't let it use you. So I encourage everyone, you should be sharing your journey, document what you're doing. Even if you're not even dude, I'm not an expert in multi-million, own 500 door, all this, dude. My journey is very authentic and it's true. It says on my Instagram, my journey to $100 million in real estate. Right. I'm not saying I'm this or that. I'm just showing you this is my journey and you can follow along. Right. There's nothing where people love that actually, instead of maybe finding someone that already has 1 million doors and all this stuff. So that's number one. People can't help you if they don't know how. So you've got to start documenting your journey and tell everybody what you do. That's just number one. Tell everyone what you do. I'm looking to do deals. I'm in real estate. I'm extending all this different stuff. And then, you know, people will know. And I know this is true because when the private money lender, the lady, dude, this is crazy. She never met me in person. And she lent me over $100,000, $118,000, $76,500, $40,000 rehab, fully funded, never met me in person. But it wasn't hard to see that this guy's authentic. This guy, of course, she did her due diligence and talked to some people, but also you can just see my life and just see what I'm doing. I'm very open and very, like, I just share my journey and everything, right? So someone can see that. So that's number one. I think everyone should be documenting their journey. Number two, do not overlook the value of taking someone to lunch and having conversations. I kid you not. I don't know if he'll listen to this or whatnot, but I literally just had a conversation with a guy here in Greenville. I'll just say, I won't say his name, but I'll say he's a really big radio host guy. here in Greenville, and we had to reschedule a couple of times, but I wanted to make sure I'm like, I need to sit down with this guy because I know I value lunches and you never know what can come out. I'm like, let me just sit down with this guy. I had no intentions of him being a private money lender. He just wanted to meet up because he sees what I'm doing in real estate, and I know he's in radio. And I was thinking, oh, maybe I can play around with like radio ads. Like, I've heard some people do like radio ads for real estate investing or whatever. And I just, who knows? He seems like a really cool guy, and he likes me. I like him. Let's just have lunch. Come to find out, this guy, him and his family member, like they have X amount of money just in the bank. And he had no idea about private money because he was trying to figure out, because he owns like a rental property, and he's like trying to figure out what's the next step, but he doesn't really have a lot of time to be running around and doing like what I'm doing. And I said, dude, you should be a private money lender. That's what some private money lenders do. They don't have that time and that energy. So they say, hey, look, I have this money. Let me just give somebody who's running around and doing all this, and let the person who's all active in it, let me give them the money and I get a big return on this. So you're helping that person. It's a win-win for both. He's like, dude, I love that idea. That's great. So now he's like, dude, anytime you got a deal, let me know. Like, this is absolutely, I'd love to do this. Dude, crazy. And what's so insane, literally, guys, and I'm telling you, I'm showing this on my journey. I literally got an Instagram DM, which is another reason, but goes back to number one, you should document your journey. I got an Instagram DM with this lady who reaches out to me, and she says, Myles, I wanted to reach out to you to see if you were interested in buying our house as a fix and flip, because I just got a job offer to Oregon and I have to move. And I'm going to be really quick with the numbers here. Basically, the ARV is like 250, literally a house on the exact same street sold for 245 like months ago. And it's not even like crazy HGT renovated for 245. So I know ARV is at least 250. And it's a 3-2, 1,700 square feet. So it's even bigger. And dude, you'll be like, oh my gosh, dude, just cosmetic work. And she's willing to sell it for like $150,000 to me. Oh my gosh. So where do you think now I'm going to go get private money to go just take down this deal instead of worrying about, okay, let me see if I can wholesale this for maybe 10, 15,000. And then now that money just goes to zero. Every wholesale check, every real estate agent check, whatever commission, I look at every deal like that it is a ticking time bomb to zero unless you have it in a way that it can grow. So anyway, so I'm like, dude, amazing, crazy. So that's another way that you can raise private money, taking people out to lunch, right? And then number one, just really being open and documenting your journey on social media. I kind of touched on a little bit, but the third option is tell everyone what you do. Anytime I meet people, anytime I'm talking to people, I tell people what I do all the time, because you never know who you meet, dude. I mean, you could be sitting in a bus station or in the grocery store or just whatever. And I'm very quick. Oh, what do you do, by the way? Oh, no, okay, yeah, I'm in real estate, whatever. You just start going into you being in real estate, investing in real estate. And I always tell people like, oh yeah, I'm in real estate. Not like on the agent side, but just an investment side, Oh, no way. I mean, everybody's always interested in real estate investing in some way, right? So I go through that route, and you just never know who you meet and get that contact. And it's just a great way for you to be able to raise private money. Now, I'm going to say real quick, this is the fourth thing that's a bonus. You can actually just raise private money if you utilize your social media. One of the things that you can do, and I think there's actually a challenge out there. I can't remember what it's called. I think maybe 7-figure flipping, they call it. There's a certain challenge that they do, or flip hacking live they do. I can't remember. But basically, for like 7 days straight, you're supposed to go on Facebook Live, and you basically just go on Facebook Live and tell people like what you do and what you're trying to do in real estate, and that you're looking to help people basically make a higher return on their income. Just letting people know, hey guys, my name is Myles. Really, really excited to get involved in real estate investing, whatnot. One of the problems that I have is I got a lot of opportunity, but not enough funding. And I know some of you guys have capital that's just sitting in a bank account. And we all know banks are giving you like less than 1%. And it's not like you're going to, what's the most secure way you can put your money? If it's in stocks, of course, that's super volatile. I mean, the president can say something and that screw up the stock or whatever, right? Bitcoin, I mean, oh my gosh, let's not even talk. Everyone's still learning about Bitcoin. I mean, I don't know. I don't even know. It's like microwaves to me right now. I don't know, right? So, the most secure, like that's been tested time and time for many, many millennium, decades, whatever, is real estate. That will not change. You can see a house, see the value, and it can be secured by an asset. And you basically just educating people, and there's a way to do it. Obviously, we can talk about that at some other point, or someone can reach out and explain it. But you just do that day after day after day, and you'll notice people will come, hey, I saw that video that you posted or that live that you're doing. I was kind of interested. My husband and I, or my friend, we had about 30 grand, and you'll be surprised the amount of money that people have that just don't say anything because they didn't know there was an opportunity.
Wow, that's amazing. It's
Sorry,
simple.
I don't know if that was too much, but
no, that's awesome. Amazing. And yet still simple at the same time, right? I mean, yes. Sharing your journey, is that hard to do? No, it's not. You just have to keep remembering to do it and then actually do it. taking people to lunch, is that easy? Yeah, you can invite some people to lunch. And
Yep.
can you tell people what you do? Yes. So,
Yes.
it's just
Very
doing that,
simple.
being consistent, and just
Yep.
continue.
Yep.
That's awesome. So you coach, which is, kind of
Yeah.
what you're doing
Yeah.
right here, right? Being able to
Yeah.
take complex problems and break it down to that people can execute. How
Yeah.
did that coaching business kind of get started for you?
Yeah, I'll try as quick as possible. Honestly, I had no intentions of being like a mentor or a coach or anything like that.
Mhm.
I simply kept getting questions from people like, "Hey, how are you doing what you're doing? What do you do?" Because people know, like, dude, I was a photographer, Mike. I had no real estate
2 years
background. I'm not an
ago, 2 years
investor.
ago, you
Two
were a
years ago,
photographer. Yeah.
2 years ago, with 6 months out of that, learning how to walk again and talking because of a freaking crazy accident, like not even a full 2 year. So it's like, dude, if I can do this, I just know anyone else can do this. So I'm not getting into coaching because I'm trying to make money and I think I'm so cool. Like, I just know if I can do this, dude, I'm telling you, I can share you the things that I did. I know this thing could work for you. There's no way it can't, right? I'm
Mhm.
a father. I'm a husband. I got all this stuff. Oh, I got kids. I got kids too. Oh, I'm a husband or a wife. I'm a married man too. I'm freaking disabled. I got injured. Dude, there's no reason why someone cannot do this freaking business.
Yeah.
So the reality is though people kept reaching out and asking like, how are you doing? How are you doing? So I would get on phones and I would share because as you can tell, I love to share about this and talk, etc. But honestly, Mike, I really started to realize that like, man, not to be condescending or anything, but I really started to feel like I was wasting time sometimes with people because I would share all this stuff. And then come to find out, they just don't even go do anything. They're kind of just like takers. They
Mhm.
just kind of want to, oh, let me pick your brain. I hate when people say, let me pick your brain. It's all about just what they need and what they want. And they get all this information and there's just nothing that, so I started saying, I really do want to help people though. I still love doing that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a private little Facebook group. And yeah, it's not going to be crazy major expensive. I'm not in here to try and make a ton of money, but there will be what it costs to be in this mentorship has nothing to do about me. Trust me, dude. It is so minimal. People are always surprised, like, wow, are you serious? Because it's not about me. It's for the
Mhm.
person getting started. It's so that there's a little bit of skin in the game
Mhm.
because I've just realized over the time, and I've done a lot of different businesses that when people have stuff for just free, they just don't treat it the same way if it's just free, no matter
Yep.
how valuable it really can be. So I just said there has to be a little bit of cost. There has to be something there, and really the whole idea is for it to just be a crazy community. I talk about everything. I share everything. There's so much, and I share it on my Instagram. People see it, like people that are getting started, like, oh my gosh, this community is so crazy, so amazing. People love it. It's an awesome community, and it's all about it's called Wholesale to Freedom because the idea is that it's not just to be a wholesaler, but it's what allowed me to have the freedom I have today. It started with
Mhm.
wholesaling, but we don't just talk about wholesaling. Obviously, I fix and flip, I own rental. We're talking about all different types of aspects in it. But yeah, man, it's just it's not a sales pitch. It's not for someone who feels like they need to be sold to get involved. It's either you really want to, find someone who can help you and guide you and you get started, or it's just not the right time. But yeah, it's been really, really fun, really exciting to help a lot of people. So
So what's the future hold for you? Where are you looking to take this in the next 2 or 3 years?
yeah, so honestly, the next 2 or 3 years, honestly, there's a big focus on multifamily. I
Mhm.
really, really want to jump from everything I'm doing right now to owning a 10 unit apartment complex, 30 unit apartment complex in the next 2 years. You know, doing a syndication, raising money to buy a 180 unit apartment complex. And it's
Mhm.
not because I'm just trying to be so like Grant Cardone or something. I think I'm so crazy cool and all this to do. First of all, I love Grant, but it's really because I've learned the value of having multiple doors within one property. I love
The
single
economies of
family
scale. Mhm.
economies of scale, dude. I mean, you have a single family home, like, dude. If there's anything that goes wrong, dude, all net everything disappears, and it's just done. But you got an apartment complex, 80 doors or 50 doors, even 30 doors, dude. 5 people, 6, 4, 2, 3 people stop paying rent. You're not like under automatic. You're not,
Mhm.
you know what I mean. You're not like worried about eating. You know what I mean.
Right.
So it's just and I didn't really realize this until I really started trying to work on some bigger deals because I've been involved. I'm actually now slowly starting to get involved in some bigger stuff. Is it's actually easier in some degree. Obviously, there's a caveat there, but it's actually easier to raise money sometimes on some of these bigger deals.
Mhm.
Some of these smaller deals because people don't see necessarily the upside as much. And it's a little bit more capital intensive. With one person or just how you raise it. It's hard to explain. But I mean, you get a 200 unit apartment complex that just is solid and just like has a great return, dude. You'll be surprised, especially in this market. I mean, there's just more money out there than you can even imagine, where people are
Mhm.
trying to get involved and get a great return on their money. So It's more the difficulty more so is finding those deals, right? Because a lot of people that own them obviously are just trying to sell them, and obviously funding it too, whether it's creatively, maybe they might owner finance or something like that, or you have to just pay them out cash or whatever. So, but that's really the big focus. Two things is that multifamily, and then the second thing is really helping a ton of people just change their life. I cannot wait until the story happens. The last thing I'll say, there's a student of mine named Angelina, and she is a mom. Dude, this girl, she's like birthing her baby while she's on these calls. I am so for her. I'm so proud of her. And one of the things that I do, I give everything and anything I can to help people succeed in the community. There's a guy that reached out to me and he goes, "Hey, Myles, I'm closing on this property. I'm going to have like $300,000 of cash. I need to buy something, man. I need to buy something soon on February 1st. I'm like, bro, I got a whole community of people that are looking for deals for investors. How about you send me a video of who you are, what you're looking for, and I'll post it in the group." He's like, "Oh my God, man, that'd be amazing." So I got my community like basically trying to find this guy a deal, and I'm doing like a fun little challenge, where I'm doing a little giveaway for whoever can actually get him a deal. But Angelina found a property that's exactly what he's looking for, like a 3-bed, 1.5 bath or more in Greenville, great upside. I mean, just he walked through the great property. The only hiccup is, and I'm not gonna go through all the details, but it might take a little longer to actually move forward because it's in probate. But it's not fully in probate because probate happens when you have one owner who passes away with a property. But actually there's 3 owners. The sister passed away and the other 2 are brothers that are still alive, but apparently they have to send some paperwork and kind of wait. So I don't think it's going to go through probate. But anyway, when this thing moves forward, the price that they're willing to sell and for what we can assign it for to the guy who just has cash ready to go, and he has $300,000 for purchase and rehab, and it's not even going to be anywhere close for purchase and rehab, $300,000. She'll basically make like $27,000 in this, and it'll absolutely change their life, absolutely change their life. And it's stuff like that that gets me so fired up, and I just can't wait for this year to just have just story after story after story of people just like having their lives changed and really succeeding. So anyway, that's kind of my main focus, man.
That's it. Just
That's
that.
Just it.
Awesome. Well, Myles, I mean, we could talk for a lot longer, but I love what you've shared. I just love your heart for helping people, your energy, and just pressing forward in the face of tragedy. And a lot of people could wallow in self-pity and why me, and you just keep going forward. And so thank you so much for sharing your story. Where can folks learn more about you that want to reach out?
Yeah, honestly, 3 places. I mean, they're all pretty straightforward. My Facebook is just Myles Berrio, so Myles Berrio, Berrio. My Instagram, same thing, Myles Berrio, but with a dot, so Myles Myles Berrio Berrio. But if you want to kind of put together a little website that kind of encompasses a good bit of stuff that I'm doing in my life, it's called Myles Berrio Go, like going to the park, go.com. So MylesBerriogo.com. And you can also find information if someone's interested about, being a part of the community and whatnot, and learning about just how can you really start building a wholesale business, all this other stuff. There's a link within that website, but that website kind of encompasses a good bit of stuff. So that's kind of where people can connect with me. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing. I know there's a lot of wealth there, and I would just encourage people to take action on what you've said, right? Don't just listen to it. You're entertaining to hear, and you had a lot of wisdom, but it really comes down to doing something, right? Yeah. Going and sharing your journey. Take action on the stuff that you said to have success. So thanks so much for sharing. I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, Mike. Seriously, man, dude.